What an unbelievable performance from Baker Mayfield. What an unbelievable comeback performance from Lamar Jackson after he missed almost the entire fourth quarter with what he said were cramps. Although I've seen a lot of men who have to run to go to the bathroom run before. And that looked like a clear run to the bathroom move that Lamar Jackson had when he went sprinting into the locker room. It did not look to me, not that I'm an expert on cramps. I am a bit of an expert on pooping, like many of you. He was running like a man who had to sit down on a toilet. But it added to the pure bedlam of this game that down the stretch run here, we ended up with such an unbelievable classic between the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. Baker Mayfield has come into his own over the past several weeks. This was a game that he could not have done much more in than he did. And the offense for the Browns seemed like it was flowing and moving, and everything seemed as if it were working. And then you had Lamar Jackson. Suddenly the Ravens are stalled. Trace McSorley looks like he suffered a severe injury on third down trying to run the read option on, let's be honest, there are a lot of bad football fields, it seemed, this weekend and on Monday night where guys couldn't keep their footing. This is the time of year where a lot of the fields are suffering. Growing grass is difficult. But, man, it seemed like there were a lot of guys slipping and sliding all over the field in Cleveland last night. Trace McSorley goes down with a serious injury. He's not able to play. Everybody is looking around and trying to make decision. Oh my goodness, what do the Ravens do in this situation with the injury potentially to Trace McSorley when out of the tunnel comes Lamar Jackson, basically runs straight onto the field, drops in a dime to Hollywood Brown, who actually caught this one because he had dropped an earlier good throw from Trace McSorley. And then you think, oh my goodness, okay, Baker, put your helmet on. Let's see what the Browns can do. And the Browns go back down the field so incredibly quickly that they left enough time for the Ravens to come back down and kick a field goal. And then, if you are a gambler, as I am, and I know many of you out there are, I was sitting watching this live, and Dub, I texted you. This wasn't like Monday morning quarterbacking. There was 1 second left. I was watching it with my Fox Bet Live crew on a group text too, Rachel and Sal and Todd Furman. And I'll read you the exact text that I sent. I texted to my Fox Bet Live crew, Brown's going to give up a fumble cover here. And I texted to you, Dub. I said, Brown's going to give a cover to Ravens here at the end. And you were like, oh, you didn't. I mean, I had a push, right? Because I got the game at 3. So it looked like it was going to be a tough push, but whatever, 45, 42, whatever it was. And then, boom, they run the lateral play where they're just continuing to throw it all the way backwards. And then you get one bad throw, you're back in the end zone. And as soon as the ball went into the end zone, I was like, unless you've got Tyreek Hill back there and he's going to make like 8 guys miss to get out of the end zone and restart the lateral scenario, you knew, I think it was Jarvis Landry, who's a pretty athletic dude, but even if you throw the ball out of the end zone, it's a penalty. There was no real play to be made there. Boom. If you are a Ravens fan and you had gambled on the Ravens to cover this game, you need to take like a month off of gambling because you just got the greatest Christmas present of the year. There was no way you should have ever ended up with a cover in that scenario. That is a gambling Hall of Fame bad beat. And I'm still not over the other bad beat we had, which was the over-hitting in the Philly game against the Saints when Jalen Hurts fumbled late. But big picture here, I'm going to bring in Dub to discuss the gambling elements here in a moment. Big picture, this was a must-win game for the Ravens. And look, if Lamar Jackson doesn't come back into this game, I don't think there's any doubt that the Ravens go out and lose this football game. And if they had, they would have been really up against it in terms of the likelihood that they were going to make the playoffs. Now that we have completed the Week 14 in the NFL, the Ravens are out of the playoffs in a tie scenario with the number 7 seed Miami Dolphins. But Miami has a tougher, I would say, conclusion because they play the Bills in the last week of the regular season, whereas Baltimore, I'm going to pull up their schedule now, Baltimore has the Jags, the Giants, and the Bengals, which you would think there is a very good chance that Baltimore would win all 3 of those games. And in fact, they would be a big upset if they lost any of those games. Now, the Giants could be a difficult game because the Giants have been playing a little bit better. But with the Jags and the Bengals on the schedule, you still feel good about the Ravens being able to get it done and potentially find themselves in the playoff mix. Now, where exactly they would end up and everything else in that scenario still remains to be seen. But you have to feel good about the Ravens' chance to get to 11-5. And right now, let me go ahead and tell you, because we got AFC playoff picture ramifications, the Chiefs would be the 1 seed. They would get the bye. I've been saying for a while, as much fun as this NFL season may well be, I feel like the Chiefs are going to go out and win the and win the Super Bowl and win the AFC, everything else. And that's even more the case if they don't have to play in the wild card round and they get the game off. But so you got Kansas City in the 1, you've got the Steelers as your 2 seed, and right now your Steelers would be matched up with the Miami Dolphins if the season were ending today. Buffalo would be your 3, and Buffalo would be playing against the Indianapolis Colts, and then the Titans would be matched up with the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns, as you look ahead, if you're a Browns fan and you're worried about your playoff chances, well, you've got the Giants and the Jets now back-to-back. What this stole from the Browns, I think, was a possibility to be in a scenario where they could win the AFC North in the final game of the season because the Steelers are coming to town to play against them. So the big picture scenario here is very good chance that this win gets the Ravens to 11-5 and potentially could set up, although we'll wait and see how all this shakes out, potentially could set up an opportunity for the Ravens to be going on the road against either Pittsburgh or Buffalo in the first round of the NFL playoffs. Still a lot of moving parts out there, but Baltimore has no chance, obviously, to win the division. And so they're going to be a wild card team if they make the playoffs. But I think you feel good about getting to 11-5. If you're a Raiders fan, this may have been the end of your playoff pursuit because with Baltimore there now sitting at 8-5, still outside, it puts a lot of pressure on the Miami Dolphins. In fact, I think if you're a Dolphins fan right now, what you would have to hope, again, the Patriots are coming to town. They haven't typically played very well in Miami. And then you go on the road against the Raiders. But I think if you're a Dolphins fan, almost what you would hope at this point is that Buffalo, who has been on a bit of a roll, that they beat the Broncos and they beat the Patriots, and they have already locked up the 1 seed in the AFC North, and they rest their guys in the final week of the season. Because if that happened, then if you're the Dolphins, maybe you could hope to get to 11-5. I mean, there are just so many different moving parts, major implications, hell of a game, as good of a game as there has been in the NFL this year. In fact, I think it was probably the best game out there, but just incredible all around. Dub, that conclusion, I read the text that I sent to you, all-time bad beat level, I mean, that's pretty brutal.
That has got to – I mean, there's been some bad ones just in the last couple of weeks. And I got to be honest, I was on the Ravens, so I was on the good side of this one. But to me, I look at it as that was making up for my UCLA bet over the weekend. But, yeah, that lateral scenario, I remember a couple years ago, I think it was the Chiefs and Redskins back in the day, had a similar situation with the laterals. It covered the game for the Chiefs, and it also took the game over. So it was a double woozy on that one. But, yeah, that's got to be the beat of the year.
And I think one of the interesting questions to follow there is who are the Ravens going to play as a wild card team if they now get in? Because, again, right now they're outside looking in. But I think if you project looking at the Ravens schedule going forward, 11-5, if they win their final 3, as they are going to be a huge favorite to do, they're going to be in the playoffs in the AFC with zero pressure. It's going to be the exact opposite of what we saw when they were playing at home, certainly last year, but in the year before as well, where when you go on the road in the playoffs, there's no expectation of anything. The Titans kind of got hot with this last year. It seems like there's always a team that gets hot and pulls off a couple of wins that you wouldn't have expected. Titans went on the road and they beat the Patriots. Then they went on the road and they beat the Ravens. That could be this Ravens team. I mean, again, like if I just run through for you right now the playoff situation in the AFC, let's take the Chiefs off the board because I think the Chiefs are substantially better than everybody else out there, right? So the Chiefs are going to get their bye week. But right now, if I told you that the Ravens were going on the road against the Steelers, would there be a lot of super confident Steeler fans about the odds that they were going to win that game? If I told you that Indianapolis was going on the road against Buffalo, would Bills fans be like, oh, we got this one, there's nothing to worry about? And how about Cleveland on the road against Tennessee? Again, how exactly this all shakes out remains to be seen. That Titans and Colts, run down the stretch over who's going to win the AFC South is going to be pretty fascinating to follow. Titans, you feel good about them beating the Lions this weekend to get to 10-4, but then you got to go on the road against the Packers. Then you close against the Texans. How many wins out there for the Titans? Can they get to 11-5? Are the Colts going to go on the road and beat the Steelers in 2 weeks? I mean, there's just so many different moving parts here to follow as we come down the stretch run of the season. I can't wait to see what's going to happen.